Hello and welcome to the Two Dyspraxics, episode 13. I'm Matthew Munson.
And I'm Barbara Neill.
And today we're going to be talking about being self-employed and sometimes the the hassles and issues that can come with being self-employed anyway, but can sometimes be worse or feel worse especially if you're dyspraxic, and the challenges that come with that. And we have a case study.
We certainly do, and there's actually quite a lot of this stuff here. It's quite a long, drawn-out saga, to be honest with you, because I'm self-employed, as you probably know. I'm a self-employed hypnotherapist, and so on. And I had a problem because I knew that my tax return was due. There's lots of adverts on TV to remind people that you have to get your tax return submitted by a certain date. And it was the 31st of January if you submit it online, and that I find easier to do anyway by submitting a tax return online. So about halfway through January, because I couldn't find my unique tax reference, I couldn't remember where I put it. I knew I'd had one, but dyspraxia being dyspraxia, couldn't remember where it was, couldn't find it, so that was all becoming a problem. So I contacted the self-assessment helpline, and I was told that yes, that's okay, we've got all your details here, we do have your unique tax reference. We can't give it to you over the phone because we're not allowed to, but we can send it to you. So I said, okay, that's lovely, thank you very much. Waited for the post to arrive with my unique tax reference. And to cut a long story, or to cut this part of the story short at least, it didn't arrive, and because it didn't arrive, it wasn't there to jog my memory, so I completely forgot about it. Couldn't remember anything at all about my tax return until I had a letter it was dated 7th of May, actually received it on the 17th of May.
So you didn't have anything between the end of January and then May?
No.
Nothing? Okay.
No, nothing at all. It took that long for them to contact me and say that I was being charged an overdue tax return and penalties of £100. So I wasn't exactly delighted about that. So
I'm just stunned it took them. They even can't send you a reminder a couple of days before 31st January to jog your memory or anything?
No, and I was really just waiting for them to send me my unique tax reference so I could submit my tax return.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really too delighted about that. No, sorry, it wasn't 17th of May, I beg your pardon. That arrived on the 13th of May. And so I wrote back straight away. I'll read out word for word because I think you can see how the pressure sort of builds up as the story unfolds. So I'll read out my. Sorry, that was my phone. We'll ignore that. We'll just ignore it. Right. So I wrote to the woman. I addressed it to the woman who had written to me, and I said I have received today a letter dated 7th of May, informing me that I have £100 penalty because I did not file my tax return on time. However, I wish to appeal this decision. Because I have dyspraxia, my organisational skills and short-term memory are affected, and as a result of this, I was unable to trace my unique tax reference, which would have enabled me to complete my tax return online, which I find easier to cope with than using hard copies. I telephoned HMRC in mid-January in order to discover my unique tax reference and explained that I mislaid it due to my dyspraxia. Excuse me. However, I was informed that it could not be divulged to me by telephone and that it would be posted to me. Unfortunately, I have not received it, and because of my disability and problems with my memory, without the arrival of the UTR as a reminder, until now I've not considered my tax return. In fact, since receiving the letter from you this morning, I've had to retrace my steps in order to establish whether or not I'd actually completed the tax return, as the nature of dyspraxia makes it impossible for me to remember whether or not the tax return has been filed. I would appreciate it if you could please confirm my UTR so I can file my tax return. Any form of admin is normally extremely difficult for a dyspraxic person to cope with, and in my work as a hypnotherapist and dyspraxia awareness trainer, fortunately admin is kept to a minimum. However, it was essential that the unique tax reference was sent to me as promised in order for me to complete my tax return in line with reasonable adjustments as stated in the Equality Act 2010.
Which we covered in the previous episode.
Indeed, yep. In fact, as you know, anyone, whether or not disabled, is entitled to request that their unique tax reference is sent to them, but in my case, I was actually relying on it to enable me to complete and file my tax return on time. I hope you will appreciate the difficulties I face when reliant upon systems that fail, as in this case, and look favourably upon my appeal. Should you require any further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. And I actually paid the £100 anyway. I paid the £100 penalty and intended to claim it back because I didn't feel that it should be levied. Actually, I felt that was a bit unfair.
So did you get was your response fairly quick, or what did you find?
The response I had from them turned up on the 17th, or was dated 17th of May, and it says, again states that I owe them £100, but I had actually paid the £100 by this time.
So they hadn't registered your payment at that point?
They hadn't registered the payment, no. So it said, we wrote to you recently about your late 2011-12 tax return and the £100 penalty you now owe. Our records show you have not filed this return or contacted us. And
so when was this received? After you sent that letter?
That was received after I sent that letter.
Right, okay.
So I had contacted them. I contacted them sometime before. You now need to do one of the following. If you know you should be in self-assessment, you need to file your tax return and then the website address, and pay the £100 penalty and any tax due. There wasn't any tax due as it happened, but I had already paid the £100 penalty at this point. You need to do this to avoid debt enforcement action. For details on how to pay, etc., etc., and if you don't think you need to complete a tax return, etc. Well, I knew I had to complete one.
Did you contact them after that letter? Did you then go back to them?
Yes, I did. Let me see, where's the next one I got to? Because this was actually quite stressful. When they start talking about debt enforcement and things like that. I paid it.
Yeah, it's comedy of errors already, and that's clearly two departments not knowing what they're doing.
Exactly. On the 24th of May, I wrote to them again and I said, I have received today a letter dated 17th of May, so it took that long to get to me again, informing me that your records show I've not filed a tax return or contacted you, and in fact I've written to you, copy of letter enclosed, and I've also paid the £100 penalty, although I'm appealing against the decision to impose it for the reasons I have outlined in my previous letter. I trust that this will clarify the matter and look forward to receiving details of my unique tax reference from you. So, in other words, I still wanted to get it done.
I'm assuming at that point, Barbara, it all got solved and the problems went away and you received a letter in the next couple of days apologising and it all went fine.
Right. I'd love to say yes to that, as you can imagine, but there's a little bit more to this saga. So I had another letter, which was dated 28th of May, and it was headed "Last chance to avoid further penalties."
I've just glanced ahead at the second paragraph. That's making me angry without even.
But before that, it says "Act now, £0 and 0 pence." So how can you do that? I don't know. Honestly, I don't understand what's meant by that. Act now, £0 and 0 pence. So I really don't know. Obviously,
doesn't make it easy, does it?
It doesn't. It's obviously a sort of standard computer-generated
letter. Basically, they've written to you. They're asking for you
£0 and 0 pence to send it to them.
Clearly, without having registered the previous two letters you sent to the HMRC.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
So at no point probably a human actually taken part in that, have they?
It doesn't seem that way, no. So this one, the gist of it really is we've written to you many times now about your late 2011-12 tax return and the £100 penalty you owe. But it says £0 and 0 pence in the heading, and I'd already paid the £100. So I really honestly didn't understand what was happening here. However, our records show you still have not filed this return or contacted us.
Right.
We've already told you that if you do not file your return, you could end up paying at least £1,600 in penalties. We also have the legal power to estimate the amount of tax we think you would owe if you filed this return. We can enforce this amount by taking legal proceedings. So this is quite a serious threat, really.
Despite the fact you've written to them
I've written to them twice, which they've apparently ignored, and I paid the £100, even though I didn't believe that I owed it to them.
Did you get back to them, or did you go back to them on this letter as well?
Yes, I went back to them on this letter, and I wrote on the 3rd of June.
I'm getting angry for you here.
Well, it was angry, and I was getting angry, but I was also getting quite distressed because I'm being threatened with legal action.
Yeah.
And this is the Inland Revenue, so they hold all the power, really.
Yeah.
Excuse me, my voice is going a bit today, but I'll do my best.
You're a professional bowler.
I am try to be. So this is the letter I sent to them. I'm extremely distressed to have received your letter today, dated 28th of May, this was the 3rd of June, claiming that I've not paid the £100 penalty or contacted you, when in fact I've written twice copies of letters enclosed and paid the penalty, although I'm appealing the decision to apply the penalty, as I was waiting for notification of my unique tax reference in order to complete my tax return. The details are contained in the first letter I sent you, dated 13th of May 2013. This situation is extremely worrying, as I've done everything I possibly can without the information I've requested from you, i.e. my unique tax reference. Once again, I would draw your attention to the Equality Act 2010, which states that reasonable adjustments should be made to accommodate specific disabilities, dyspraxia being one of them. My request for you to supply my unique tax reference was made in order to enable me to file my tax return, as explained in my previous letters to you. Therefore, once again, I request that this is sent to me as soon as possible. In addition to my dyspraxia, I also have a heart condition and really don't need this sort of stress, so please, I would appreciate it if you could address the points I've made in my previous letters, including my appeal against the penalty levied as a matter of urgency. And I posted this one to them by recorded delivery.
So they knew you knew it would get to them.
Yes, I knew for certain.
Well, I mean, the previous ones had obviously got to them, but
But when I sent that one, I sent it by recorded delivery, and I knew it had been received because I'd had to sign for it.
Right.
So the reply I got.
Dun dun dun. Was it actually a human reply? So I'm just thinking out of shock to adjust my legs. Sorry.
It's a bit hard to say whether it was written by a human or not, to be honest. I reserve judgment on that.
No.
But I received a letter which was dated 31st of May, and it said self-assessment late filing penalties £0 and 0 pence.
Right.
Outstanding tax returns 2011-12 and 2012-13.
That was the financial year we were in at the time.
Yes, now the trouble is I got a bit confused about that, so I was thinking that we were in the year 2012-13 and that they were now saying that I owed a tax return from the previous year, so that was my fault. I got confused because they had two lots of tax returns that suddenly came into the mix.
Right, which hadn't previously been referenced.
Exactly, so that was my, well, it wasn't my fault because I didn't see why they needed to mention 2012-13 at that point, because it wasn't actually due. But when I saw that, I thought, oh no, so they're saying I owe one for the previous year as well.
Yeah.
So it got confusing, even more confusing. But bearing in mind that this is the one I received after the one I sent to them by recorded delivery,
right.
And it says, thank you for your letter dated 24th of May.
Okay.
So I had to acknowledge that they've received something, the contents of which have been noted. On reviewing our records, I note that an application was received for you to be set up as a self-employed holistic massage therapist, commencing trade on 10th of September 2010. That's true, actually, because I am a qualified holistic massage therapist, and I did apply to set up at the same time as setting up as a hypnotherapist.
Okay.
And that was the right date, September 2010 is right. There is no record that you contacted HM Revenue and Customs confirming that you had ceased working as a holistic massage therapist. Well, I haven't, because it's quite possible I might occasionally. I mean, I don't do very much in the way of holistic massage now, but I've never said that.
But you kept it there.
It's there, yeah. So that's why they haven't received a record, because I haven't made one. I haven't made a. I haven't contacted.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
The tax returns for the years 2011-12 and 2012-13 still need to be completed, including the date that you ceased self-employment as a plasterer. So your record can be...
Hang on a second. A plasterer?
Yes.
Now, have you ever been a plasterer, Barbara?
No, certainly not as far as I can remember.
So where have they got that from?
Well, my guess is it's a standard letter. They just basically haven't looked at it properly. They've been a bit slapdash, really, with sending out a standard letter.
So they've changed it in one place, but then they've obviously written to a plasterer before.
Yeah.
And just kept it in.
Yeah.
Are you sure you've never been a plasterer?
Well, this is the Inland Revenue we're dealing with, so I may have made a mistake. I may have accidentally become a plasterer without remembering it, but I don't think I have. Dyspraxia is not that bad.
No, do you remember that?
I would remember, I'm sure. By law, once the tax return has been issued, the return has to be completed and returned to HM Revenue and Customs. Well, I know that because that's what I've been trying to do with it.
And this is all come about to get your unique taxpayer reference.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes, that's what I requested from them, and this is all.
I noticed at the bottom there you've actually been given your UTR.
Yes, I have been given the UTR because it says here your unique tax reference is, and there it is. So it was a bit like a sort of shining.
Which is what you wanted back in January.
That's exactly what I wanted. So right. Yeah, and this is.
And this is now
31st
of May. Okay, and you received it in June.
Yes.
Okay.
So I responded to this letter.
Okay. And
by this time I was angry. I was quite distressed as well because it still wasn't resolved. And I tend to resort to sarcasm, so it might come across as just a little bit sarcastic. You can reserve judgment on that. 6th of June, I wrote this letter. Dear Sir or Madam, thank you for your letter dated 31st of May, which I received today. I note that this appears to be in response to my letter dated 24th of May, though I've also received a letter previously from HMRC dated 28th of May, claiming that I've not contacted you, regardless of the fact that I did so in writing on 13th of May, again on 24th of May, and most recently on 3rd of June, when I sent the letter via recorded delivery. So in other words, that's the only time I actually had a response or an acknowledgement that I've written to them at all. I've also paid the £100 penalty, although I'm appealing against the decision to apply it in the first place. I'm finding it very difficult to know where to begin to address the points raised in your letter of 31st of May. I have not yet filed my tax return for 2012-13. Now this is actually my mistake because this one wasn't due at that point. It still isn't. Still not due yet. Yeah. But I was mistakenly assuming that this one was due because they'd asked for it.
I should say we're recording this in August 2013, just in case you're wondering. That's although you'll probably see this some months in advance, we're still within that year. Just in case you were wondering kind of what we were talking about there.
Yeah, exactly. So this won't be due now until the end of January.
January 2014.
Yeah.
Actually, probably about the time this comes out.
Yes. Right, I have not yet filed my tax return for 2012-13 as I've been waiting for notification of my unique tax reference explained in my previous letters. However, my tax return for 2011-12 was filed before the deadline as it was supposed to be. That's not the case actually because I then was referring to the previous years.
2010,
because we've got which I had filed, but that was actually the one that's current. But they confuse living daylights, so I didn't even bother putting
the other
one that's not due yet into the mix. Yes. I did indeed set up as a self-employed hypnotherapist and holistic massage therapist, and I'm still working as such, which explains why there's no record I contacted HM Revenue and Customs confirming that I had ceased working as a holistic massage therapist. As I've already said, my tax return for 2011-12 was filed at the time it was due. I'm keen to file my 2012-13 tax return as soon as I have all the information from yourselves that will allow me to do so. I don't think I've noticed my unique tax reference at this point, but I'm dyspraxic.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Right. I can confirm that I've never worked as a plasterer, self-employed or otherwise, so I cannot confirm the date I ceased to do so. I will be very interested to learn about my record as a self-employed plasterer that apparently needs to be closed because I have no knowledge of any such record having been opened. Oh, no, I have noticed it, sorry. Thank you for supplying my unique tax reference in your letter of 31st of May 2013, originally requested by me in mid-January. Having attempted today to file my 2012-13 tax return, I've now discovered that I need my login ID and password. So it's back to square one, really. Due to my dyspraxia, explained in my previous correspondence, I do not have these, so would be grateful if you could send them to me as soon as possible, together with anything else I need to enable me to file my tax return online. I've already attempted to obtain this by contacting the helpline telephone number, but after making a series of selections, I was directed back to the website, on which the only information I could find was the telephone number I'd just tried. And I'm not joking.
No, I believe
I
you.
spent a long time going through the website, on the telephone rather. I've got the website address, so I thought, okay, I'll try the website. And that was all I could find, just the telephone. So it just round and round in circles. I'm finding all of this extremely difficult and distressing, and would appreciate any help that you can offer me that will enable me to file my 2012-13 tax return as soon as possible. I appreciate that my correspondences have been forwarded to the appeals team, but would appreciate confirmation that all of my letters, 13th of May, 24th of May and 3rd of June, have been forwarded to them. I would also appreciate clarification regarding the self-assessment late filing penalties, as this is shown as £0 and 0 pence on your letter dated 31st of May 2013, but was originally shown as £100, the amount I paid but am appealing against. For the purposes of clarification, 1. I have filed my 2011-12 tax return but not yet my 2012-13 tax return, and that was wrong, unfortunately. 2. I registered as a self-employed hypnotherapist and holistic massage therapist on 10th of September 2010. 3. I'm still working as a self-employed hypnotherapist and holistic massage therapist. 4. I am not, nor ever have been, a plasterer, self-employed or otherwise. It is a joke, really, isn't it? Honestly, I wouldn't know where to start in plastering. Getting plastered, possibly.
Getting plastered. Well, after you go with the wine, but.
Yeah. 5. I have paid £100 penalty, but am appealing against it, having been applied in the first place. 6. I'm requesting all information that I need from you to enable me to file my 2012-13 tax return. 7. I'm requesting confirmation that all correspondence from me is passed to the appeals team. So that's where I've got to with that. Excuse me,
No.
I need a drink of water.
I'm just
now,
conscious,
actually,
we're 21 minutes 50, so I'm just conscious for our lovely viewers, we might need to kind of, we don't want to lose you. We don't want to lose you, viewers.
No, we're nearly there, actually.
Nearly there.
It is nearly
I'm not rushing, I'm just saying, just conscious of our viewers.
Yeah, of course. And it is something of a saga. So,
Yes.
from a simple request that's gone wrong. And then I had a letter from them on the 3rd of June, or dated the 3rd of June. Appeal against penalty for not completing your tax return. In your appeal, you told us you completed your tax return. Our records show we did not receive the form, etc., etc. What you need to do now, log into your online account. Well, I'd love to be able to, if only I had the information I'd asked them for to enable me to do so. Yep, so I don't have that, so I couldn't log on at that point. Then I had another letter from them, dated 10th of June. Thank you for your letter of 24th of May. You should now have received our response to your earlier letter of 13th of May. To be honest with you, I couldn't tell you whether I have or not, because I was just so confused by this point. I really had lost track of it. And confirmation of your unique taxpayer reference. As stated in our letter, we will review your appeal on receipt of the tax return. So,
yeah, I don't think it said that in the letter, did it? But
no, I don't think it did either. And then I had a letter saying that my tax return for the year ended 5th of April 2012 is now more than 3 months late. And it's just basically telling me that a daily penalty of £10 a day is payable for each day your online tax return is outstanding for a maximum of 90 days. So this means that the minimum daily penalty you will have to pay is already over £300. To avoid further penalties, file your tax return online now. So then I had a letter. Oh no, hang on. The final one, yes. I had one which said that my appeal had been successful.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry, I've missed a very crucial part,
What's
because
that?
I managed to get in contact with Maidstone, Inland Revenue in Maidstone. I don't know how I managed to do it, because the telephone.
You managed to speak to a human being.
I spoke to a human being, and I asked if I could take everything I had down to the tax office, sit with someone who could help me complete my tax return, file it online, and then just get it done. And that's what happened. And it took 20 minutes, possibly
Okay.
even less than that. So it was done fairly quickly, fairly easily. I was slightly put out because the woman who helped me with it said, well, I don't know the answers to some of these, but it's obvious that they mean. It wasn't obvious to
No,
I'm
quite, yeah.
dyspraxic. It wasn't obvious to me.
Yeah.
So so I was a bit put out by that, but it was nevertheless done and dusted. And as a result of that, I had a letter saying that my appeal had been successful, and here was a cheque to the value of £100 and 10p. I suppose the 10p is interest. But on the cheque, in one place they put £100, in another they put £100 and 10p. But fortunately, my bank credited the 10p as well.
Well, yeah, you got 10p.
And the irony, I mean, the good thing is that it was resolved in the end, but it was such a struggle to get there because they didn't do what they were meant to do in the first place. And I didn't seem to have anywhere to turn to get the help for it. The irony is that about 3 or 4 years ago, I would say, about 3 or 4 years ago, I gave a talk to the Inland Revenue in Maidstone on dyspraxia awareness.
There is an irony there, isn't there?
Yes. Did it sink in, I wonder?
Clearly not.
No.
Clearly not. I mean, the frustration there for anyone, sort of dyspraxic or not, to have to go through this process. But well, as you noted in your first letter, the obviously the short-term memory problems that we've got, which we've covered before as well, it can be some occasions quite off-putting. I think some people to actually kind of feel like they want to run the business. But actually, I've got dyspraxia. You know, how am I feeling with this? Is it going to be okay? The bureaucracy involved can sometimes be an absolute nightmare.
It has been made worse because I'm dyspraxic rather than being made better. And yeah, I know I keep banging on in those letters to the Inland Revenue about the Equality Act, because I don't really feel that, particularly in this instance, I had any help at all. By the fact that we're supposed to be covered by the Equality Act is almost irrelevant. It didn't make any difference at all. It's still got more and more complicated. And it shouldn't be a problem next year when I complete my tax return, because I now have an admin assistant. So thank you so much for the admin assistant and the funding I've received from Access to Work. So I think that we'll be doing, we'll do a whole separate video, I think, on Access to Work and sort of help that you can receive from them. There's still clearly a very long way to go for support for anybody who's self-employed and has dyspraxia. There is a certain amount of help, I think, available to students and available to people who are employed. But if, like me, you're self-employed, it's really knowing that there's nowhere to turn at the moment. And thanks to my experience, at least we can bring those sort of pitfalls to people's attention, and we will try to get together as much information as we can and try to change that, because the way I feel about the Equality Act is that if it doesn't actually serve us in any way, no point in it being there. What's it for? You know, there's no point in having something which provides lip service and lip service alone.
So I think it's really useful having the case study though, because so that's my phone going off now in the background. I think it's really useful having the case study and actually hearing about your experiences though, because actually we can say that, yeah, by no means was it an easy experience for you
Not at all. No.
But
No,
now
not
that we've
at all.
got the experience, and thank you for going through it, hopefully we can kind of, as kind of positive in your way, hopefully we can, by sharing your experience, the kind of the slightly atrocious experience you had, hopefully we can say to other people, look, we're happy to kind of give advice and guides. If you are self-employed and you want some advice about if you've got an issue that's coming up, drop us a line and we'll see what we can do to kind of guide you in the right direction, because as you've heard very comprehensively, Barbara's been through it and she's experienced it directly herself, and if you do get any issues, experience any issues being self-employed, contact us and we'll see what we can do about kind of guiding you in the right direction. We won't have all the answers.
No, I don't. We can't pretend to have all the answers, but at least because we are experiencing this ourselves, I think that the more of us who get together and compare notes, and we can help and guide each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do think that we shouldn't rest until we've got that Equality Act actually serving its purpose, which is to offer protection for the likes of us, so that we are treated the same way as anybody else.
Absolutely.
Or given the same opportunities as anybody else. We are supposed to have reasonable allowances made, and I think the fact that that is open to all kinds of interpretations is what makes it complicated, but it should still serve us nevertheless, and I feel quite strongly about that.
Which is where the Two Dyspraxics come in, Barbara. Which is where we come in.
We do.
We'll
change the world.
We will.
About time somebody did. Really. So I'm talking you and me.
Yeah, well, why not? So you've had, ladies and gentlemen, the revolution is going to be started by the Two Dyspraxics.
And anybody else who cares to join us.
Come and join us on our
Welcome.
Facebook page or YouTube, and we'll change the world.
Yes, and also if you happen to be self-employed and dyspraxic, we'd love to hear from you and just hear about any experiences that you've had, so that perhaps we might evolve something into a support group for self-employed dyspraxics, which I think is probably pretty badly needed.
I think actually you heard it here first. Sort of support group for self-employed dyspraxics. Yeah, definitely needed. I think it is.
Okay,
Fabulous.
so I think we've done that one to death now.
I think we have,
I'm
but a
sick of
good
it.
one. But a good one. Barbara suffered for this, ladies. I hope you appreciate. Barbara's gone through the mill for this one.
Just look at this face. Count those wrinkles. There's a lot more there than there were before I started.
There's hardly any. She's fine. She's making it up. But that's okay, Scotty. But this is going to be a positive thing. We're going to learn from it, and we're going to teach people how to respect self-employed dyspraxic people. Well, dyspraxic people of all.
Absolutely.
But we're gonna try and we're gonna work with you guys and other agencies, and we try and make it better for self-employed dyspraxic people.
We just need to know where to turn for help.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
We will do it.
Yeah, we will.
Thank you, Barbara, for sharing your experiences.
You're very welcome.
Very interesting.
I do like to suffer from that art.
Yeah. And you've suffered. God, she suffered. She suffered. And thank you for watching, and we'll speak to you. Make sure you put any comments you like down below in the comments on Facebook, kind of down there. So.
Yeah, or send us a message if you want to keep it private, and that's fine. We'd love to hear from you either way.
Have to keep it non-stop. Thank you, and speak to you again soon.
Bye.